Okay,
So,
Telluride is going on. I guess the first real big of the fall festivals to give us a preview. And we've gotten a lot of previews of highly anticipated movies that are coming out this fall. So let's go through some of the movies that have premiered there so far, Venice and Telluride, and talk about the reaction. There's a documentary that I'm interested in. You know, that just premiered at Venice because they've been obsessed with trying to make this Janis Joplin narrative feature for so many years.
Oh, yeah.
There is a new documentary from Amy Berg, who, by the way, she premiered her movie about child child sexual harassment. Child exploitation.
That's a very controversial movie.
Did they bury that? Because
it seems to be having some kind of troubles getting out there. It's all about child abuse in the film industry. And so I guess she's run into a roadblock for people not wanting that information to get out there.
Actually releasing it. Yeah. Anyway, her new documentary is about Janis Joplin, and they say it's very, very good. It's going to be part of the PBS American Master series, so everyone will have a chance to see it on their TV eventually. But that's good. I'm glad that there's a comprehensive treatment of her life that's going to be out there. Now, for you, with Janis Joplin, and it's so weird because I just saw Petulia as well, and that has Janis Joplin in it. But in terms of a narrative film of Janis Joplin, the first person was Melissa Etheridge that they talked about, and then the last person, if I remember correctly, is Amy Adams.
Amy Adams, right.
And I don't know what's with that, because in between that was Zooey Deschanel, but there was no way she could do it because everyone warned her, because if she did that, she would destroy her voice. She would never be able to sing again, was a big, big factor in that. They said you'll destroy your voice if you try to do this. And I can understand why. But she was for many years attached to that, on and off again. And then it went to Amy Adams, and I don't know what's up with that now. So
the other thing is, Janis Joplin had such a unique voice, one of the most kind of powerful, just guttural female voices of the time. That why bother having the actor sing it? You know, because I look at something like one of my favorite performances, which is Jessica Lange's Patsy Cline. There's no way, you can duplicate Patsy Cline's voice. I mean, that's one of the great female voices. But she physicalized, she completely inhabited her pre-recorded tracks, I think, in that film. I mean, why not just do that?
I think that there's this pressure on actors now to do their own singing, in order to prove how great their acting chops are, really. But I agree that the actor doesn't necessarily need to sing in order to make the performance great.
I agree with that too.
Here's my one complaint about all the people that they've tried to line up to play Janis Joplin, and that is that there's so much about her look. I guess, unless they're going to slather on some makeup or something like that, but there's so much about her look, which, let's face it, she was kind of homely, and it was a torture for her in a lot of ways. The look that she had, and her voice, and talent more than compensated for that. But that was part of her, the demons that were eating away at her. And to try and get somebody like Zooey Deschanel or Amy Adams, who frankly is way too old. Well, Amy Adams is way too old for the role because she's in her 40s now. I mean, she just doesn't. None of these people really even remotely resemble.
What about Lily Taylor? I would have said Lily
Taylor would have been the perfect person to play it at the right. Yeah.
I would have gone with Lily Taylor. I would have thought that was like, a no-brainer, but obviously they didn't go with that. And yeah, I mean, Lily's got the voice for it, but it's just not going to work. We all know it's just not going to work. That's not going to work. Amy Adams, I agree with you. That's not going to work.
Yeah. Then again, at the same time, I mean, who would have thought that Charlize Theron would work for Eileen Wuornos?
Well, I mean, they did slather on the makeup there, though. Yeah, so I mean, if they're going to do that, then that
that's a whole
negates
other
my commentary.
But
I don't know why they can't. Whatever happened with just trying to find a character actor or a newcomer to play this rather than going to like
they can't find a Homely actress. There's not a Homely actress in Hollywood.
Well, unfortunately, that's probably true.
Dean brings up a great point, though, and it is something we don't hear much about anymore. The newcomer. That's really where we are actually at a point in time in motion pictures, not so much TV maybe, but with motion pictures, where the idea of giving a newcomer a part of a lifetime is unheard of. We don't do that anymore.
Well, and it would be good publicity too if they held open calls to play Janis Joplin. I mean, it would be great pre-production publicity for it. Okay, moving on. Also at Telluride, that premiered over the weekend, the Steve Jobs movie written by Aaron Sorkin and directed by Danny Boyle. At first, I was so excited about this movie because I like Aaron Sorkin, even though his dialogue all sounds the same, all the characters sound the same. But I like his rhythms. Because he's obsessed with that rhythmic patter, and I love it too. But I was disheartened by the choice of Danny Boyle to direct over David Fincher when David Fincher backed out and Christian Bale backed out. And then Danny Boyle and Michael Fassbender took over. But by all accounts, Danny Boyle is a major reason why the movie works well as a movie as opposed to a stagey play, which essentially it's written as, because it's a 3-act kind of single-location thing. And Michael Fassbender, they say, is a leading contender now for Best Actor after people have seen this.
Mm-hmm. I have a question for both of you. And it's about Aaron Sorkin. I'm sure. I mean, I as soon as we saw the trailer, I figured this was a front runner for the Oscar race. Because I don't know of anything that we've seen this year that really is so far. So I just figured this for Black Mass would be the front runner, just because there's not much out there as far as quality goes. But my question is about Aaron Sorkin. This is the second major screenplay he's written that is, for lack of a better thing, character assassination. And that may not be the right word I'm looking for, phrase I'm looking for, but he really has something against Zuckerberg, and now it looks like Jobs. Do you get that impression? I mean, at least from the trailer, I get this is like, these are like kick
Well,
out.
I don't. Maybe it's different with a writer, but I know when an actor takes a role, they don't put in their mind to demonize whoever they're portraying.
Oh, of course not.
I don't think Aaron Sorkin's setting out to demonize Steve Jobs. I just think he's setting out to write as interesting a character portrait as he can, and that includes all the flaws as well as the accomplishments. Now, Steve Jobs, by all accounts, I mean, he's changed the modern day world as much as anyone.
Right.
And he was an extremely kind of flawed person that a lot of people did not like.
Oh, they hate him. A lot of people
as you can see from the Alex Gibney documentary that just came out this weekend too, that I watched. What strikes me is I know why Aaron Sorkin. I think Aaron Sorkin might have been given this job instead of originating it. Because it seems like Aaron Sorkin did a great job writing The Social Network, so they said, well, he's the one we should go to for a portrait of an incredibly powerful person in modern society who also suffered from major personality disorder. So I'm wondering if Aaron Sorkin's going to get typecast writing this kind of character.
Yeah, and I'm not saying, look, that both characters are very flawed, and that's what makes an interesting biopic. No one wants to see a saint, and they're not, and neither one of these men were. But it just seems like it's just so odd, back to back these portrayals, because there's a lot of people who've come out about this. I think The Social Network is as perfect a movie as there's been over the last decade. I love that movie. It's so engrossing. It's so well done. But it's not a very flattering portrayal of Mark Zuckerberg. Let's be honest. But it is a
a big reason why it's so good is because it's not a flattering portrayal.
Right. Yes. I think that's something that people says with Jobs. One of the things that he was not easy to work. He was very difficult. That's why he was fired from Apple. The first time, because he rubbed everyone the wrong way. So I just find it very interesting that two of the most important people Steve Jobs in the late 20th century, but two of the most important people also in the 21st century that he has written these biopics of in one way.
Well, and I think that's why he's gotten it. But I mean, maybe a common theme between the two, more than anything, is you have to be an asshole to change the world. And Steve Jobs, I believe, was a genius. I'm not quite sure about Zuckerberg, but they've both done their part to change the world. And do you have to be a terribly unpleasant, uncompromising person to do that?
I think I'm leaning towards yes. I'm leaning towards yes so far until the Elon Musk film comes out. But yes, because isn't that the other important?
I'm looking forward to it. I'm very happy that the notices on Fassbender are great, and it seems like a shoo-in for best screenplay, if nothing else. But I'm glad that Michael Fassbender's getting a lot of notices. And they say that Danny Boyle, it's not as show-offy as something like Slumdog Millionaire or his usual stuff, but it makes what could be a very stagnant, stagey thing into a cinematic experience.
Right.
So
he might have been perfect for that material.
Mm-hmm.
I just hope that it kind of puts a cap on the movies about Steve Jobs, because there really have been. I can't name one person that has inspired so many movies in such a short amount of time. Both documentaries.
What are the other movies though, other than the Ashton Kutcher
movie? What other movie is there? I mean.
Well, there's the Alex Gibney documentary.
Right. There's that, but what those three, the documentary and the two there, and there's what
and
else?
I think there's another documentary on top of that, and I know that they're going to do an opera based on Steve Jobs too.
Oh my God! Is Peter Sellers doing the opera? I mean, Sellers, I mean, you know which one I mean.
Yeah, of course. I don't know who's doing it. I don't know. It could be. I'm not sure.
My friend Rick said the same thing, and I was like, but there's only been one other narrative feature. I mean, there were like 4 Body Switch movies back to back. So what's the this guy actually kind of changed culture worldwide in a major way. Of course, we're going to have to reckon with it what he's left behind.
And remember, this doesn't even go in. This one doesn't even go into the. This is before the iPhone, if I'm not mistaken. So we don't even get into that era.
That's right. The last part of it is it goes up to the iMac, and then that's it. So we don't get the cancer days.
No, we don't get anything like that.
That'll be the title of the sequel, though. The Cancer Days, I think.
Right. The Cancer Days.
The Danish Girl, which I remember the day after the Oscars. Since Eddie Redmayne won last year, Best Actor. The day after the Oscars, they released the first still from The Danish Girl, and everybody was like, of him dressed as a woman, and everybody thought, oh gosh, now he's going to be up for another one. They like him. They don't necessarily like the movie. Critics don't. But you know, this I mean, they're kind of wishy-washy on it. It's a Tom Hooper.
Hooper, yeah.
But it's one of those things too where it did get a 10-minute standing ovation. But festival audiences can be deceptive, their reactions, because they're in the midst of the excitement of a world premiere and the stars are there, and it's it's that whole thing.
And the place is probably packed with people who worked on the movie and so forth.
Yeah,
so
that's a big thing. That's a huge thing right there. So
you can't go by them as necessarily. Yeah.
Because I can see the argument about this film. Why not give it then to Tangerine or something? That would be, that article from IndieWire is coming in a couple of weeks, I'm sure. Why not give it to something like Tangerine, which was shot on an iPhone in Los Angeles?
Right, Tangerine is that movie that was,
I have seen it, Dean. You must forgive me. It didn't play long enough for me to see it, and I thought it would be on demand, but it wasn't. But you have realized that you do this with Eddie Redmayne, and I'm sure it's a great performance, but you're going to get a backlash, and there already is a backlash. Go on certain sites, we actually, why would you give an award to someone who's not actually transgender to play this part? That whole
argument. I think we've talked about this on this show. Yeah. Is so stupid because that negates all. It negates all of acting. It's like only blind people can play blind people. Only deaf people can play deaf people. So forth and so on.
I like Audrey Hepburn and wait until dark. She's not blind. I mean, it's a good performance. I mean, I don't want a real blind person. My God, she tripped over the cable. She unplugged the camera. But that's what I mean. I've already seen this. I guess this week or last week, I've seen articles, already going after Eddie Redmayne and who was the other. There's an actress playing someone, if I'm not mistaken, for another high-profile movie that's coming out soon about the same.
You mean another transgender person?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I mean, the fact is that I'm sure there's a lot of transgender actors out there that are very good, but none of them are huge stars, and you need somebody in there to, to put asses in the seat, and we just really, it's just a stupid thing. I mean, what are we going to get? I mean, like, I know that there were some people. Remember that movie Musical Chairs that Susan Seidelman did? There were some people complaining that they weren't really handicapped people or physically challenged people in those wheelchairs, and it's like, come on, I mean,
it's like saying,
this is acting.
How dare that person play gay, or how dare that person play straight because they're gay in real life? But nobody said anything about Richard Gere and American Gigolo. So I mean, come on.
No, but it goes back to Scarface. Remember he got a lot of crap because he was an Italian American, he wasn't Cuban, and people gave him a hard time about that. That was a controversy. I mean, people are nitpicking. They're like,
and a huge thing too was wasn't a huge thing in Butterfly on the stage, at least, when Jonathan Pryce played that role.
Huge. I remember that.
Yeah.
In Butterfly. I mean, it was enormous.
Okay. What's the title of this Carey Mulligan, Meryl Streep movie? Suffragette? Yeah.
Suffragette.
Jet? Not get?
Yeah, suffragettes were the names of was what they called the women who were fighting for the vote back in the 20s. Mm-hmm.
Suffragettes.
They were women suffragettes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, they like the film okay, but they love Carey Mulligan in it. They say Carey Mulligan is a great contender. All of these have to do with Oscars. I mean, all of these festivals have to.
They're very Oscar-y.
No doubt. These festivals get attention because of their predilections of the Oscar race ahead.
Well, it's particularly Telluride and Venice for some reason. Like, I think it's just been the case over the past, decade or so that every Best Picture winner premiered at either Telluride or Venice before winning the Oscar. Right. So popular notion is that by October, the Best Picture winner will have already been seen. And
I'm excited.
All the rest.
I'm excited that several of these are actually coming out in wide release this month. Like, we don't have to wait until January of next year for some of these.
Yeah,
that's
good.
I think that's going to be the case, Damien. I mean, all of them, I think. I mean, unless I'm mistaken, unless I'm missing something. But, yeah.
Like Black Mass. Black
Mass is the first movie that I'm looking forward to so far. So,
Black Mass got... the only bad notice I've read of it is in Hollywood Reporter. So I read the Hollywood Reporter notice, and it was bad. And then I read the Variety, and it was just absolutely glowing. And most other reviews I've read are very positive on it.
Mm-hmm.
They say that Johnny Depp it's a very weighty role that he's more than up to the challenge of. And it's got a great cast.
Mhm.
I'm curious to see how it turns out. I wasn't a big fan of Scott Cooper's last movie, Out of the Furnace. I know you liked it, Jerry, but
I liked it. But I mean, it's a good. It is. How shall we say it? We have to put this in the context. It's a great movie for the first week after Thanksgiving, beginning of December release. You understand what I'm saying,
That's like a dead period. So
that is generally, let's be very honest, that's a wretched period. I mean, and wretched is being kind to that period, but there are certain periods.
The only period that's worse than that is the period we're in right now, which we're in.
Oh my God, dude, and it's bad.
I'm telling you, we'll get to this week's stuff in a minute, but hey, the one thing about Black Mass that I just can't get over is just Johnny Depp's eyes. Like, there's just something so fakey about those blue eyes that I just can't get past it.
Yeah, I'd be interested.
Am I the only one?
Probably, but I'd be interested to see at what point in the movie that we forget about that, because there are some performances that kind of transcend that, and you're so focused on something at first, but then the performance takes over and it doesn't veer your attention very much. But he had those contacts like hand painted because he said he wanted eyes that just cut right through you. Maybe he'll use them well in the movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. God, what a cast in that movie, though.
I didn't notice.
How about? Can I mention another film?
Sure.
How about this whole thing that's swirling around Amazing Grace, that the Sidney Pollack movie that is being resurrected from the dead? I don't know. Do you guys know about this at all?
I don't know about this at all.
Well, okay, so Sidney Pollack went and back in '72 went to a church to film Aretha Franklin performing for a church crowd, and the film's title is Amazing Grace, and that was also the title of the record that came out of this live performance, and it became one of Aretha Franklin's biggest selling records. Well, they went to go and film the performance, but the big problem was that Sidney Pollack wasn't quite prepared to do this, and he went and shot everything without using a clapper to sync the sound. And so what it became was a music documentary in which none of the sound was usable. So it was a silent music documentary. And so for years they tried to go back and resync the sound, and they weren't. Sidney Pollack considered it one of his biggest failings. He would go back and try and do it, but they just couldn't do it. And now they have course, computer technology. And before he died, Pollock gave permission to one of his friends to finish the movie. So this guy, whose name I don't have in front of me, but this guy made it his mission to use current technology to sync up all of the sound to all of the shots. And so apparently it's ready now to be seen, but Aretha Franklin is stepping in and saying that she doesn't want it seen, and so
what she's doing is she filed an injunction and she stopped the screening because she wants to own it. She wants to own it. It's not necessarily that she doesn't want it to be seen. If she owned it, she'd probably show it.
Right.
Yeah.
So they have to work out some things, but
I have a question, Dean. I have a question for you. How long did it take them to sync this up? Because that's not an easy thing. Having had to do that at times in my life, that's an impossible.
It literally took from 1972 to now. I mean, it really did, and it really took it took certain computer programs and so forth to match up lip readings with the actual piece. I don't know how they did it. I know that it would have been. They said it was like trying to blindly go through a maze in order to do this.
I mean,
so
shit, I forgot my clapper, and that automatically just ruins the entire filming process.
I think that's a fascinating thing, and I guess we'll eventually get to see it. I mean, even the maker says he doesn't want to shortchange Aretha Franklin. He wants to give her everything that she feels as she's due. But let's face it, this isn't going to be a big movie or anything. It's not going to be. It's not going to make $1 million.
It could be one of the great performance films. I mean, you think of Aretha Franklin in her prime singing in a church. I want to see that. You know.
Yeah. So. Another movie that I'm fascinated by is Anomalisa. I guess that's how you say it, Anomalisa. That's how Charlie Kaufman's new movie that he's done with an animator named Duke Johnson, and it's this story of depression and loneliness, sort of wrapped up in kind of a weird love story, The animation is supposed to be very distinctive, very odd, and of course, coming from Charlie Kaufman, you know it's going to be strange on the screenplay level.
He directed this?
It's his first movie. It's his first movie since Synecdoche, New York. So it's been 8 years. So he and it's David Thewlis provides the lead male voice, and Jennifer Jason Leigh is the lead female voice, and then Tom Noonan is in there as well. So that's getting some really good reviews, it seems like. And
those aren't the kind of voices that Pixar hires.
That's for sure.
Okay. Also, I made a mistake because I said that I read one bad review and the rest were glowing about Black Mass. Actually, the movie that I'm talking about, I got it mixed up, is Spotlight. Hollywood Reporter did not like Spotlight, and everybody else just loved it. And I'm telling you, Spotlight for months has been one of my top most anticipated movies. As soon as I saw that it was like a work process movie, a journalism movie in the vein of All the President's Men, I was like, oh yeah, I want to see that. That's like right up my alley.
Yeah, for sure.
Good. That looks very good.
I'm also really curious about the film that Kip Jones has done, the documentary about Hitchcock and Truffaut, called Hitchcock Truffaut.
Yeah.
Just like the book was called.
Right.
I'm very interested in that too. I guess we'll be hearing a lot of the tape recordings and so forth, but that'll be really fascinating.
Legend, the movie about the Cray brothers, where Tom Hardy plays both the Cray brothers. It's written and directed by Michael Helgeland. they don't necessarily like the writing and directing of it, but they praise Tom Hardy for dual performances.
Can I ask a question about that? I mean, the Peter Medic movie, The Craze, is a very good movie, and they got the guys to stand up ballet to play both brothers. I think Tom Hardy's perfect for this. I mean, but what is this going to span their whole lives? Is this a certain segment, or is this a complete thorough biopic of them, like the other one?
I'm not sure how far it goes up.
Yeah, this is a fascinating. I mean, these were the bad boys of the London underworld. I mean, and I like The Craze. I don't love it though. I mean, it was good, but it wasn't great. You know, it was a kind of
that's how I feel about it too.
It was underwhelming, if I have to be honest with you. But if you add Hardy into that could up it. But if you don't have a good story there, you know, if you don't have, if it sounds like to me from what I've heard so far, it's like paint by numbers kind of gangster biopic. So I mean, that's the impression I'm under.
That's the danger.